Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate sponsors and syndication experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of passive real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
Phasing big projects is a very big, it's an opportunity, right? So you don't have to necessarily do it all at one time. So if you have a $10 million roof project, the chances that every square inch of that $10 million roof needs to go day one is probably unlikely. So you need to know what makes sense to strategically phase out a project like that so that you don't bite off more than you can chew, or you don't leave yourself in a position where you have to undo work you've already done in order to tie in a new system or anything like that. And that's true for everything, whether it's an electrical upgrade for an entire building or pavement. You have to look at things as it doesn't have to be the full boat, right? But you just have to understand, if you do 50% of $1 million job today, it might cost you $600,000. And you ask, why is it not half the price? And it's like, well, there are certain mobilization costs and certain costs that are just inherent with running a project of that size that get baked into that number, so that you can't just divide that number in half. You could divide the scope in half, but your number might not divide perfectly in half. And then when you go to do the second half next year, now it's $750. So now you just turned a $1 million job into a $1.3 million, $1.4 million job. And you just have to be able to prepare yourself for what that might look like. And I mean, I know it very well, because one of the projects that I just like recently ran through was, it was a new acquisition, and it was supposed to be $1 million window repair project. And as we dug into it a little bit, it turned into like a $7 million window replacement project. And obviously somebody missed the boat there, right? So the experts and the report that we had, the executive memo was pushing repair. And, during the conversation, I presented it as well as I could, that we need to replace these windows, but it didn't work in the underwriting. It didn't look very good. And it's like, all right, well, then we should really carry a little bit more, because the repair is probably not going to be the best approach. These are old windows anyway, and you don't really want to spend $1 million, $2 million repairing 20-year-old windows. You should maybe phase out, let's do a $2 million portion of replacement. You know what I mean? And let's see how far that can stretch. And then it was, okay, well, how many more can we do if we can really get some really good financing options for this, whether it's local grants, you know what I mean? A lot of communities have grants when you do an exterior work. So if you have somebody paying attention to that side of the equation, they can go and they can apply for grants. And next thing you know, your $7 million window replacement project that you only budgeted $2 million because you thought it was a repair project, there's a $5 million delta there that, you know what, let's do $2 million worth of replacements on the worst $2 million. And it's not pick and choose, right? You have to be strategic about whether it's a stack of windows or whether it's an entire floor of windows, depending on what you need to access and things like that. And then whatever's left, can you go for certain grants, and can you go for certain subsidized support and do those projects? And especially if it's a low income property, there's a lot of government assistance on projects like that, as long as it's approved and presented in the right way.
Wow. That's incredible, man. It really is, and it's so interesting, like how I guess all the the facets of that, inside of, something that could be like a 5 to 7 to 10 year project, like all the strategizing and kind of like testing things out and stuff like that. Like you just mentioned, with that window example of just being strategic of how much that you're allocating towards something like that. Is it the best situation for what's going on? Is it possible to be able to test out, that type of thing, see how things go, and then be able to carry that on in different phases and stuff like that. That's really cool stuff, man. It's nuts.
Yeah.
So
That's
do
really the big picture stuff. But I mean, there's a lot of smaller kind of more palatable pieces of the physical asset management and the asset management in general that come into play on a regular basis as well.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs. Get access to our private investor portal and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.